why.
What is up, everybody? Joe Sib here with my co-host.
Anaya Bogue.
Anaya Bogue, who said her brain doesn't feel sharp today.
It doesn't.
Why is that?
I'm really not sure. I had such a good sleep.
Do you think that you tapped? Do you know what the sleep bank is?
No. Tell
You've
me,
never heard of
Joe,
that?
what is the sleep bank?
Supposedly.
Yeah.
Hey, and for our listeners, hit me an email to confirm that I am not just
making this up.
randomly making up a theory. But I remember reading that your body, you'll get tired and you kind of fight it through your day, drink your caffeine, do everything. But what ends up happening is that when your body finally gets time allowed to sleep, like, hey, I'm crashed out. And let's say, I don't know if you're 6 a.m.er. You're 6 a.m.er because we text at 6 a.m. before we track.
Yeah.
So before you come here, I know you're always, either going to spin or I'm going for a run. So we're texting 6 in the morning. Say you miss that 6 o'clock wake up call that you normally do. And your body says, oh, wow, she's going to let us sleep longer, guys. So they tap into the sleep bank. Well, let's get some of that sleep that's owed to us.
Yeah.
That's why, I don't know if this has ever happened to you. You go on a vacation. And let's say you check into the hotel and you fought, weeks. Got to get everything done at Rad Parenting. Got to get everything done with Stand Up Girl. Got to get everything done here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, now I'm in Kauai. And you set your bags down and all of a sudden you're like, you fall asleep.
Yes.
And then you go, gosh, for the first part of the vacation for 3 days, I slept.
Yeah.
That's your body tapping into the sleep bank.
Got it. Yeah, that could be. I also have, as always, lots going on in my head. I'm not really sure today why. It could also just be hormonal. So for those of you who don't know this, when you're in the second half of your cycle as a woman, your brain is less clear and your verbal clarity is also not as on point. So it's probably also a bit of that.
Did not know that.
High progesterone.
Welcome to Rad Parenting.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you guys next week. How great would that be?
Just constantly dropping little gems.
I love throwing that out there. Little information, little jibs.
It's what we do. It's who we are. It's what we do. How about the reviews we're getting? Speaking of which.
I gotta say, and you know how I feel about the reviews.
I know.
Well, first of all, thank you all for the reviews. We're almost at 100 reviews. Please keep them coming. They're amazing. iTunes, you go there, you review the show. The reviews have been so great, and I know I joke around a lot on the show, but I will say this. They hit me in a way I never thought they would. We got one recently this week that talked about not only was his mom listening to the show, got turned on to it by her husband.
Love that.
Which that stokes me.
Yep.
And they listen to it, applying some of the ideas and conversations that we have in this room into their life, which I love that. Like, okay, great. But then at the very end, she said it even made her look at life differently. And I don't really exactly.
Yeah, like not only a better parent to these human beings she's raising, but also herself, like feeling like she's a better, more equipped person. I love that. It just doesn't get any better than that.
That's where it hit me the hardest.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, people are actually listening to the show, which freaks me out because I know that with everyone that's listening to the show, and there's so many people each month that are listening to the show. I mean, we're getting more and more listeners, which is so great about being able to check those numbers out because you can really see. And being a part of radio for as long, I mean, I've been part of radio for, I'm coming up on like 13 years. Wow. You really never know how many people are listening to your show. You never know. You're like, okay, I'm on Saturday night, 10 to midnight. Who's listening? There's no way to really monitor that. But with a podcast, you can go, wow, every week, 2,500 people listen to our show, and every month, 20,000 people. Yeah. 20,000 people listen to what you and I have to say. Okay, like right now, I'm starting to get anxiety. I start to
stop now.
Yeah, I'll just be like, I'll stop talking. Like, okay.
Joe, are you still with me?
Yeah, that sleep bank thing, I don't know where I came up with that. Speaking about stop talking, do we have any other business we want to touch base on really quick? I know that one thing with the reviews, with the reason we always hit you guys up for them is it helps so much. It helps with the popularity of the show. More importantly, more eyeballs get to see us. We're really trying to work with iTunes in the future with getting a new and noteworthy spot, which will get more people to listen to the show. A lot of times when I'm at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, more Trader Joe's because Whole Foods is $1 million, so I only go there for like one item. But when I go to Trader Joe's, I just want to run around and tell everyone to listen to our podcast because I feel like those are like our people in
Yeah.
there, you know, or like the other day I was on the road and there was a family at the pool I was staying at, and like dad had tattoos and the mom, like, you know, not like, you know,
Yeah.
Harley Davidson. I mean, hey, you know, motorcycle people, love you. I'm scared. I drive a Prius, so I can't ride the motorcycle. But my point being is, I see these families. I'm like, oh my gosh, they would love what Anea talks about. They would love our show, and I almost want to turn them on. So when we ask you guys to do the review, that's because hopefully those reviews get us more of a presence on iTunes. But hey, don't be afraid just to run up to someone and spread the word.
Right.
Go punk rock style, DIY. Literally, go up. DIY, do it yourself. Go right up. Go right up. Not DUI. I know people are like, DUI? Drink and talk about rad parenting while I drive my car? No. Gosh, no. Do it yourself.
Let's quit while we're ahead, please.
Do it yourself. Help us spread the word. We're like a little band.
Yes.
Rad Parenting is like a little band. We're like a little band, and we need you to help spread the word of what we're doing and get it out there to the community that you guys are a part of. With all that said, I've kind of went on a rant, and this show's basically today about
another rant.
Because you get yourself into trouble as a parent. I'm going to be fully transparent today. Mm-hmm. Transparent, no pun intended. And I'm going to throw out a word, so I'm going to give you guys the head up. The word pussy.
Because we normally don't swear or use any sort of colorful language on this show.
We never swear, but the word pussy is going to be said on the show. It won't be said a ton, but it will be said one more time in the context of this show. We're going to throw it out there. Not a fan of the word. Going to throw this out, though. Also, I'll be 50 in August. So 50-year-old dude that grew up in a culture, skateboarding culture, punk rock culture, California culture, where that word was thrown around a lot. Mm-hmm. And it was used to describe when someone was being weak.
Which is absurd.
I know. I'm going to get to that. Mm-hmm. It was used to describe when someone was whining. It was used to describe when someone was not at their full potential, when someone got hurt.
Yeah.
It was used to describe that. So obviously we know the word pussy. You're basically it's using the word vagina. You're saying you're acting like a vagina. Basically, what you're doing,
which is
part
why
of a woman.
So not okay, and more importantly, inaccurate.
If you let me get to that, I will tell you that I know that.
Sorry,
I'm going to get to that because I had an epiphany years ago. One time I was on stage, a guy was throwing the word out there, and it's before the Trump thing and everything. The word, it would just be used, quit acting like a pussy. And one night I was like thinking, and in a moment I had this whole moment where I was like, wow, when you're calling someone that and you're using that part of the female anatomy to describe someone as weak, it's totally inaccurate, because if there's a part of anybody's anatomy, a woman or a man, I'm going to tell you right now, that right there, none of us are listening to this podcast. None of us are in this world. None of us are anything happening without that part of a woman and the anatomy. And also, let's face it, that anatomy, the strongest, most durable part of any human being to push out a human being. Yep. And how your daughter was what?
11 pounds, 1 ounce. She was an emergency C-section.
Okay.
That's what C-sections are for.
Got it.
But yeah, women have been pushing out gigantic babies, like 9 and 10 pound babies since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And it is an amazing part of the human anatomy
that
can bounce back and is super strong.
Okay. So for centuries or for however long people have been calling each other, you're acting like a, boom, there's the word. Not going to say it again for you guys. It's inaccurate, because what you should be saying is when someone hits a home run, damn, you're like and throw the word out then.
Yes.
Hey, you got an A on your test? You are acting like a, boom. Man, my son is the biggest pussy in the class. All A pluses. My son is awesome. Just hit a home run. My daughter, boom. You should be using that word then.
Yes, that would be more accurate.
That would be way more accurate.
Yeah.
But sometimes in an emotional moment, you reach into your parenting toolbox and you say things, and you reach into your own verbal toolbox.
Yeah, and programming, individual programming. Yep.
I wouldn't say that the P word is in my parenting toolbox, but the
Right.
P word is definitely, it's like an old photo of like, oh man, remember when I had that haircut? That's so lame. You never see it again. And you think you're never going to see that photo again. Well, I had a moment, and it fits with summertime because it was baseball season. And I'll just throw it out there. I was driving with my son. We finished up a game. He had been he struck out for like 2 games in a row. So he'd been up to bat like maybe he hadn't gotten a hit probably for like 5 times at bat.
Okay.
And not that we're some huge baseball family, but we do love baseball. We're Giants fans. Sorry, everybody. We love San Francisco Giants. We watch baseball together. We just love it. It's fun. I grew up with playing baseball. I never was really that good. I never went as far as he's went. He's these big kids throwing the ball at him. And I couldn't do that when I was a kid. I quit, but I finished the season. And then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Hit, on the other hand, he's been doing great. So he had this run where he's not getting any hits, and it's just not going in the way that he wants it. And we were leaving the game, and we get into the car. I'm quitting the team. I let him vent. We get in the Prius. We're driving. I quit. I'm done doing this. He starts getting more and more agitated because I'm letting him vent. I'm not saying, no, you're not going to quit. We're going back and forth. And basically, he then throws out, well, you quit? And I go, wait a minute. And that's where my chest got a little tight because it was a trigger. Because I'm not a quitter. And he said, well, you quit. I go, no, I didn't. I go, I never quit baseball. He goes, yes, you did. And I go, Nate, what I told you was I finished the season and then I stopped playing because it wasn't for me. I didn't in the middle of the season.
In the heat of the moment,
go, I don't want to do this anymore and bail. I just didn't want to play anymore after the season. Well, I'm going to quit because you quit and da-da-da. And I go, whoa. So now I am involved in the conversation and I'm no longer venting. It's 2 dudes in the Prius jamming. And now we're not having so much of conversations. We're arguing, and he's yelling, and then I start to yell, and then he says to me, "Yeah, well, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore, and I don't have to." And then finally I go, "Look, man," and I go, I was killing it. I go, "Life's about striking out." I go, that's what life is, dude. Like you're not someday when you go and you go for a job or try to get into maybe a college or something and you don't get in. That's called striking out. And what do? You go back to the dugout, you sit down, you figure out how you're going to get back in the game. I go, life is about striking out. Anyone that's ever done anything in this world, there's more learn from when you strike out than from when you hit the grand slam. Everyone's, hey, the grand slam's pretty rad, but to get to hitting the grand slam, you have to strike out regularly. And it's that moment in time that when you do hit the home run or you do have the big hit, that you even will love it that much more because you will remember, the struggle of striking out. Well, we start going back and forth. Well, I'm going to quit. He goes, and before I knew it, I reached into the toolbox of the old words and and I threw out, well, God damn it, quit acting like such a pussy.
Boom.
As soon as it left my mouth, I was like, damn. And you can't unring a bell.
No.
You cannot unring a bell, and you can't outrun the truth. 2 great sayings that I learned from my partner, Bill Armstrong's mom. And that happened. And he looked at me and just, was like, did you just call me a pussy? And I go, yeah. And he goes, Mom hates that word.
I love that you went to Mom.
Yeah. And at that point, the conversation was like, I got to bring this in for a landing at a certain point. So we got back to the house. And we were sitting in the car in the driveway. And I said, look, I'm going to tell you something right now. And I'm going to say another word. I pray. I don't need to say the word. I just said, dude, I just effed up big time. You guys can fill in the rest of the word. And he just looks at me and I go, man, I'm going to tell you something right now. That word is so not the word to use what you're doing in the car right now. Because what you're doing right now is you are complaining, you're whining, you're giving up. And when I'm calling you this P word, it is so much. And I told him my whole analogy of like, you and I wouldn't be here in this automobile. The people that designed this automobile would not be alive to design the Prius that we're driving in if that human anatomy of a woman did not exist. And what I'm telling you right now is do not be a moron like me and have that in your vocabulary. I grew up with that word around me. And I'm telling you, like I always tell you, once you start using crutch words like that to describe how you're feeling instead of really saying, then you're a 49-year-old man that just used that word.
Wow.
And he just looked at me and he was like, you know what? I don't think he really even said anything. He was like, okay. So he goes a separate way. And then we're having the rest of the day, where you're just like, oh God, that happened. Mm-hmm. Great. And at a certain point, we had some relatives over and we were gonna, do the barbecue thing and everything. And I said, hey man, can I talk to you out front? And it was like an hour later, maybe 2 hours later. And he said, yeah. And I go, man, once again, I want to tell you that, and he goes, Dad, you don't have to say it. He goes, I get it. He goes, you were upset. I was upset. And he goes, I'm not going to quit the team. I just said I wanted to quit the team, but I'm not going to. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes you say things that you don't mean. Yeah. What do you think? I'm really going to quit the team? I go, no. I don't think you're going to quit the team. And he was like, just like basically what he said was, the way you're handling it at the beginning was way better. I just wanted to vent to you. Yeah. I'd never quit the team.
Get it together, Dad.
And then he said, and I said, do you understand the significance of that word and how important, just as a man and as your father, that I don't want you to use that word. I don't want that to be a part of who you are. And there's a lot of things that you can take from me, but do not take that, because I'll tell you, I feel like I told him, I said, dude, that's something I have to remember now. Like, oh, great. I got that on my universe record that I threw that out there. Because I totally believe when you die, it's all there. I totally believe when you die, they're like, hey, what's up, Joseph? Yeah, cruising. It's like, it's a defending your life. The
Good thing you have a lot of time, Joseph. Come on in.
The Brooks movie, Defending Your Life, basically where they go in and they have to basically go, okay, so, you knew when you were doing this and you have to watch all the videos and you go, oh, great, cool. And you can't BS at that point. Mm-hmm. You got to own it. So that's why I dealt with that. Anea Bogue and Joe Sib, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this. Do you ever feel that you do not have enough time in the day to do what you're supposed to get done? You're going to work, you're maybe trying to hit the gym, but you forgot that, oh, I got to pick so-and-so up from daycare. Oh, I got to get my dad over to his doctor's appointment. Oh, I wanted to pick up the house before I left. Wow, check it out. How am I going to get everything done? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Go to care.com. Care.com. Care.com is the world's largest digital marketplace for finding and managing family care. That is right. Family care needs can be unpredictable. You got sick kids. You need someone to stay home. Man, both parents are out there trying to make a living. Your kids get sick. Oh, who's going to stay home? Who's going to miss out on that cash? Now you go to care.com and they'll have someone for you that can look after your kids. Don't stress your life away. Seriously, most working parents worry about their kids every minute of the day. You're more at ease and more focused when you know your kids or your parents or even your pets are well cared for. Best part is this, care.com provides access to a variety of background check options you can purchase to help make sure that you're making the best hiring decision. That's my favorite part right there. They're letting you know there's a million different things for you to check out on the background check options so you know who's going to be there with your kids or with your parents or with your pet taking care of the situation. Care.com. Check it out now. If you go to care.com right now, you ready for this? To save 30% off care.com premium membership, visit care.com/rad parenting when you subscribe, and you're going to get 30% off. Like I said, the world's moving a million miles an hour. You just want to take care of your kids and all the responsibilities. Let care.com help. Joe Sib, Anea Bogue, back in the studio, Rad Parenting. We just talked about having having one of those moments where you say something you regret, using a word that you don't want to have in your family's in their repertoire.
Yes.
In their set list of vocabulary. The word we're talking about is the P word. We've talked about, I basically told my story. What I wanted to throw out there was I called you.
You did.
And I was so bummed.
Yes.
And it was one of those moments where I was like, I was like, I don't even want to do this Rad Parenting show anymore. I'm so not rad. That was so lame. And I'll hand it off to you from there.
You did. So, well, I think that as I told you when you called, that there's a whole bunch going on here. I think I wanted to use this for a show, even though you're really putting yourself out there, and I am grateful.
I so much didn't want to do this show.
I know.
When you came up with it yesterday, you said, hey, remember what happened after baseball? I go, I'd seriously like, that never happened. And then you're like, I really think we should do a show on that. I was like, why does it have to be me? But then you told me a story about yourself. So I'm going to hand it off to you now.
Okay. So, because there's a few things here. And so, I mean, I immediately told you to put your mind at ease, and not like your mind is like, oh, that's no big deal, but just like it doesn't, beating ourselves up and sort of like, the super hard self-judgment is just, and even guilt for that matter, is just wasted precious energy. It's much better to put that energy into, okay, so I did this thing, that sucked, that's not who I want to be as a parent. Why did I do that? And the why did I do that is an important piece of the commitment to not do it again. Even if we end up doing it several more times, I think it's really important to understand why sometimes those buttons are pushed. And I've had them too, which is what I told you when you called. I was like, look, I do this for a living. I, have spent a lot of time trying to hone my, expertise both, out in the world and with my own children. And to this day, I mean, when my daughter was 15, which was probably the height of her just being annoying and difficult, I, at one point, told her she was acting like a bitch. And I was very careful in saying, like, acting like a, as opposed to, but all she heard. And I get it, because it's your mother, it's this person who's supposed to love you unconditionally. You have this sense of, I mean, at that point, she knew I didn't walk on water for sure, but there's still this expectation that there's certain things that are just not going to come out of your parents' mouth. And I don't think the answer is, we need to make sure that we live up to that so our children are never disappointed, or they never really know we're human. I've said multiple times on the show how important it is that our kids do see that we're human, so that they are given permission through that to also be human, to make mistakes, to say things we can't take back. But what I just have to commend you, as I did on the phone and even in your retelling of it now.
Well, I was calling you to say I don't want to do Rad Parenting anymore.
I know, but it was such a great, you handled it like a pro. Like, that's the whole thing is.
Can I tell you, though, the thing that went through my head that I've learned sitting across from you for 72, 73 episodes was, after that moment happened, I was searching in my mind, and all it kept coming up, teachable moment, teachable moment.
Yes.
And then I was like, if you want to find a teachable moment right now, there's been a rupture and you need to repair it. And if you can repair that rupture, you'll use that as a teachable moment. Sure, you're going to have to be the one that took it to the face, and you're the one that's going to have to, for the rest of your existence with your son. And for him, it probably won't be a big deal. I don't know if when I'm sitting on my deathbed, he's gonna be like, you know what? Gotta say, in 2017, when you called me that word, bro. Like, I don't know if he's gonna say that, but I know this. I'm gonna have a scar, a little scar on my heart from saying that for the rest of my life. But it's almost like one of those things where I sometimes believe that I'll look at that and go, that's the learning process for me to not ever say that. But I had to have that happen to me in front of him so that he doesn't ever do that.
Exactly. And I think that the context, that was a much more impactful and therefore memorable experience for Nate than you, even on a daily basis, being like, we don't use that word. He'd hear it somewhere in his mind, I shouldn't be saying that, blah, blah, blah. But to have that, the extent of explanation around that was just so, that we talked before about failure. It's like your failure just, created a gateway for something that wouldn't have otherwise been, that is such an important and potent teachable moment. So I think the reason I wanted to do this as a show is because I think that we have to be aware as parents that probably our children, certainly the case with me, you and I have talked about this, and I think the reason you had that moment is our children, unlike probably anyone else on the planet, because they have a different connection to us, are able to push those deep triggers that we carry around with us, that sometimes we're not even aware of, or we think we've gotten a handle on because we've moved through so many years of our life in, say, an adult context where nobody's pushing our buttons in quite the same way. Our children, I think, really tap into sort of our inner little people, like our inner children, if you will. So for you, the whole quitting conversation as a child who came from parents who, even if they were 100% right and it was the right thing to do and everybody, fared better than had they stuck it out, they quit their marriage. Your reality took shape the way that it did because they quit. And I think that part of your I'm Joe Sib and I will not quit approach to life is a result of that, which is also another example of their quote unquote failure awakened in you something that would not have otherwise been. Who knows if you would have accomplished everything that you've accomplished in the world had you not had that experience to make you so determined not to be a quitter and to push through tremendous adversity to have a company like 23 years in the making that's had such success.
The thing that's crazy though, that, even with all of that, my parents they told me never to quit and, work hard and all that, but there was never that moment that I had with him saying that. Like they never reached for words like that. So that it wasn't a part of my upbringing. Right. I would say,
what was the using words like that?
Yeah, there was
big explosive.
Yeah, there was
moments?
I would be lying to you if I said, and growing up, sometimes so-and-so, my mom or dad would get mad at me and they'd say something to, push me and poke me to, be a better this or that. There was never that. It was just, they would stick just to the facts. Hey, do what don't quit. Don't be a quitter. You're whining right now. I don't like it. You sound like a whiner. I don't want to hear you whine. Quit it. Stop. Boom. Which that's all I needed to say in the car. I didn't have to reach for this word to really hit home.
But that's a super intellectual, like in hindsight, you can be, and we can all be, just so everybody who's listening, we are human beings first. Parenting, being a parent, is one of many hats that we wear. The human part never disappears. And so if we have a moment like that, the moment that I had with my daughter, who pushes my buttons unlike any other, I mean, she can send me from 0 to 60, and let me tell you, I've got some serious fire, some serious heat that's kept under wraps most of the time. These are going to happen. And yes, of course it's ideal if it doesn't necessarily have to come out with our children, although that's highly likely, I'm here to say. But to take it and make it all that it can be, which starts with, what was it that pushed my button about that interaction? Joe Sib,
I'll tell you right now, quitting.
Right. So
that's a trigger of mine.
Okay. And so the suggestion that he was going to quit, the suggestion that you had been a quitter, even if you knew 100% intellectually that that's not the way it went down, that you didn't quit on the team, that you saw out the season and then made an informed decision that that was not for you. In that moment, the accusation of you being a quitter while he was simultaneously contemplating quitting pushed a button for you and you had a big reaction. I promise you that will happen again unless you stop and take a look at it and say, what was it about that whole thing that pushed that button, and how do I do it better? How do I ensure that that button doesn't get pushed?
And when you and I were talking about doing this show, that was the reason why I was like, all right, I will be the one that, I'm sure we'll get a few emails from people that are like, I can't believe you would say that. I can't believe, and hey, if that happens, it happens.
Yeah.
That's just part of it. And sorry. I apologize to anyone that is super offended, but I'm also throwing it out there so that another mom or dad listening to this show right now, when they're about to grab that word, they're going to remember the story I just told them and say, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to grab that word. And I'm not talking about the word that I use.
Specific
I'm
word.
talking any word. I'm saying, hey man, you're acting like an effing idiot.
Right.
Hey man, what a moron you are.
Yeah.
Hey man, look at you. I can't believe you do that. What are you dumb?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I could have said that to him. You know, hey man, you're so stupid.
Sure.
I mean, hey, right now that word that I used, got definitely magnified in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's why, part of me was like, you know what? I'll throw it out there, but not at that time in the car. I'm saying throwing out that in the episode. But it's on a grander scheme that I want someone any parent listening to know that you can when you say those things to your son or to your daughter, you can't unring the bell.
Yes.
And I'm telling you right now, I said that word, and hey, you know what? It's we're gonna get through it, and we're gonna move on. But I'm thinking, wow, thank God I didn't say something else that you can't walk away from. And
Well,
I know that
might have had a more personal
Exactly.
touch in
You know what
terms
I'm
of him
saying?
actually internalizing that as a judgment or the way that you see him. 100%.
Exactly.
So I think what we
That's
need
how
to
people.
say here.
That's how people. We all know this, and we've all been there, including me. When you're sitting on the, when you're sitting there talking to a therapist about why was this said to me, and they,
Yeah.
dude, we've
Yeah.
all had to, spend some money on that, and me a little bit more than others.
Therapy fun.
Yeah, therapy fun.
So here's what I'm going to say. I think it's really, really important. Obviously, the ideal is that we get ourselves in check and we don't have those moments as parents where we are explosive because our kid has pushed a button or somebody else in the vicinity has pushed a button and our kid happens to be in the line of fire. Whatever the circumstance is, obviously we want to do our best to not be in a position where we as a child's parent and the person that's supposed to love them and protect them unconditionally are throwing out words like they're daggers that can have a lasting impact. However, if we do have one of those moments, it is absolutely critical. The only way, no, you cannot unring a bell, but you can certainly make lemonade with a big pile of freaking lemons. And so the next step, if you have that moment, is to, as quickly as you possibly can, while it is fresh, own it, take responsibility for it, explain to the, developmental level of your child what was not okay about that, and make a commitment in the moment to work on ensuring that that never happens again, because you would never want your child to feel unsafe or under attack, or have a model for them that says, here's words that we throw around when we get upset. Okay, that being said, once you have handled it in the immediate, the deeper ongoing work is to actually get to the bottom of what that trigger is through your own personal reflection, through writing, talking to a partner, talking to a friend, talking to your therapist, whatever. And if I'm a big fan of therapy, and I'll tell you why, because I believe that it is the one context that if we have the benefit and the resources of being able to have access to a trained professional, it is a little bubble that we can step into with a human being who is trained to help us understand our insides, that has no ties, no vested interest in anything that we're going to share, and that has a lot of value. Barring that being available to you, identify in your life somebody that you absolutely trust, that loves you and respects you unconditionally, and work that out. Because it is even more damaging, in my opinion, if we make the commitment to not have repeated episodes and we keep having repeated episodes. That does not mean it's the end of the world if you have another episode after the one you committed not to have, but it's really, really important that your child sees you working at it and taking responsibility. There's so many examples in there that are going to benefit them and become part of their own sort of human toolbox to move through the world with.
Love that. I got to add one thing too.
Please.
For any of the people listening that have ever been on the fence with therapy or sitting down and having that moment with someone. And I know therapy costs $1 million. Oh my gosh. It should just be for free for everybody, because it would make the world such a better place. But I remember I'd never, ever even considered going to therapy, because I was one of those guys you talk to whoever about whatever, and then, once I had kids, it was a conscious effort that I was like, there's a lot of stuff that I just want to figure out. Not a lot, but there's a few things that I want to figure out to make sure those things don't continue on.
Yep.
And I went for I would say a year. And the therapist I had was awesome. And it was one of those moments where I was like, gosh, everyone, if they can, should do this, because it really helped me understand and figure out how to maneuver with being a parent and just being a partner to another human being, and how things and words that I would use and say are way more, how much of an impact they had on people. And hey, and being a comedian and a comic, I should know that, but I didn't even
in the moment. And in the moment, it's really difficult.
And I don't want to say I grew up in a household, but I did grow up in a household where, you say things, they were never, like swear words at each other or something, but there would be things that would be said, and it was always like, oh yeah, hey, you know what? We're okay now. Don't worry about that. But obviously, like I said at the beginning of the show, you can't ring a bell.
Yeah.
So that was why I wanted I agreed to do this show with you.
So bravely, Joe. No, really,
So bravely.
I'm thankful, and I hope that our listeners are thankful. Again, it's just we really want to keep bringing the human to parenting.
And I just want another, dad or mom or parent out there to, you're battling it in traffic. It's 1,000,000 degrees. You're trying to get from point A to point B, and finances are tight. And then someone wants, I want this, and so has that. Whatever the trigger is, and that this, that moment starts coming over you. And for me, I always describe it as chest starts to get tight. And it's almost like an outer body experience when I feel the trigger coming on. And those words I just used right there was a trigger that probably my own trigger right there. For someone else, it might be a number of different things. But all I wanted from this moment for this particular show is for someone, when they're just about to grab for a phrase or to go with a word or something that they aren't going to be happy that they said right after they said it, that before they grab that bell and ring it, they go, oh man, I remember Joseph.
Maybe I'll go take a walk right now.
Exactly.
Which is to your point, the whole bit about the chest feeling tight. Like when we start to become aware,
that's exactly what I normally would do.
Physiological signs that some big emotional reaction is coming. That is our opportunity to seize that and go, I'm going to go for a walk right now, or whatever it is.
And we've said on this show, because I'll tell you right now, for the people that have the toddlers, okay, and then you go into the 9 and 10, when you start rolling into adolescence, there will be times, and you're kidding yourself if you're going to try to ride it out and be like, I will not buckle. There will be times when you will have to say to your son or your daughter, hey, I don't like the way you're talking to me.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm going to leave. And when you want to talk to me like we can have a normal conversation, I will come back. But I am not going to sit here and be your verbal punching bag and have you talk to me that way. Right. I'm going for a walk. I'm out of here. See, everyone's like, wow, that guy sounds together. And I'm telling you, that's the way you have to do it.
Yes.
And then you come back and you sit down and you go, all right, now let's talk.
Now let's do this. Awesome. Well, hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah. I hope everyone understands that.
Yes, Joe.
Okay. Did I make that clear?
It's good. Yes. Right. It's all good.
All right.
All good.
I'm tapping my foot pretty
You
loud.
are. I know. I'm like, wow, this is strange, nervous energy from Joseph. I hope you all really enjoy this episode because Joe's taken one for the team.
Yes. Learn from mistakes. Hey, and I appreciate you being as open as you were about, you and your 15-year-old in that moment.
Oh, yeah. And that's just one of many. Just to be fully transparent, one of many. That I have some serious heat that I have to work on. But
what's one of your triggers? What's an Anea
lack
Bogue
of
trigger?
Appreciation.
Okay.
I have a really hard time. I don't need people to if I give you $1 million, you need to give me $1 million back. All I want to know is that you're grateful.
Yeah.
And with our kids, and I think this is hard for a lot of us, especially living in this part of the world and blah, blah, blah. It's like when you give and your kid is like, okay, so you gave me 9 things out of 10, but I'm going to complain about the one thing I didn't get. I just want to explode.
Yeah.
And especially when we worked so hard to make our lives just a little bit better, a little easier for our kids. And you don't want to sound like your parents, like when I was a kid, but it's like, dude, get some perspective right now. You can't complain to the person that's giving you everything. Sorry, I can't hear it anymore.
Yeah.
So anyway, real deal for me too. And hopefully, everybody just cuts themselves some slack, but also becomes really diligent about creating the teachable moments, figuring out what your triggers are, getting to the bottom of them, just as another way of becoming a better, stronger parent and raising better human beings.
That's what I walk away from today's show is really always finding the teachable moment, also not being afraid to find out what that trigger is in yourself that would allow you to fix that and really dig down deep, whether it's talking with someone that's close to you, your partner, or if you can, taking a chance and sitting down with someone that's professional in that world to walk you through, hey, why is that bothering you?
Yeah.
Hey, why does that get you upset? Before we get out of here, I want to make it abundantly clear. I think this is really important to tell you. I appreciate you doing this show. and coming here each and every week because I appreciate it so
Thank
much.
you.
Hey, everybody, keep hitting us those texts. You can text the word parenting to 313131. We're getting a ton of those now. Basically, what happens is I hit you the show. It goes right to your phone each and every week, so you can just click on it and check it out. Also, keep those reviews coming. Really appreciate it. If you can hit us up those reviews on iTunes, that's always great. Any questions about the show? Hey, today's episode, if you have any of your own personal stories, anything that you'd like to share with us, you can always email us at radparenting@gmail.com. All right, with that said, my name is Joe Sib.
And Anea Both.
This is Rad Parenting. We're out of here.
Late.